Today I want to bring you a pretty straightforward Void roaming super build. It's using Mantle Battle Harmony to get your Nova Warp super on Warlock back as fast as possible. It's making tons of orbs, it's getting lots of kills with a really strong exotic primary, and that's just going to get your super energy up really fast thanks to the recent roaming super buffs. You can see here in the gameplay, just constant orbs, clearing crowds. There's legend campaigns for 15 power level under, and it's still just pretty trivial. It's been just about 30 seconds and we've already got our super back. So we're going to pop that Nova Warp and it's going to just take out entire crowds of enemies. Doesn't matter if they're orange bars, if they're Cyclopses, or if they're these Minotaurs, they're just boom, wiped instantly. Whole crowds of them. If this sounds good to you, you might enjoy this build. With that, let's get into the details of it. I'm Engineer. First off, let's start with the exotic. It's Mantle Battle Harmony. It does two things. If you get a kill with a weapon that matches your super element, then you get super energy as you kill stuff. It seems to be somewhere between 1.5 to 2.5% depending on how strong the enemy is, what level of command it is. And then once you get your super, and then if you get a kill with the weapon matching that super, you will get 4 times weapon surge matching the element for 11 seconds, which is pretty strong. But that's really not the part we're focused on. We're just focused on getting our super quick, doubling up on those roaming super buffs. If you want some more information on how super is generated, what the roaming super buffs affect, I have a great video on super regen that you should check out. If you're looking for this or focusing it, it's pretty much standard stat priorities. We want to get good resilience, we want to get good discipline, then recovery and strength, then intellect's our last priority, and we're dumping mobility because we're on Warlock. Now the sources for this, it requires Beyond Light. It was launched within that year, so that means you can get it from Vex Strike Force or Rahul's Precision Focusing after resetting his rank one time this episode. Now if for some reason this doesn't work for you or you can't get it, you can also just substitute in Skull of Dire Hamkra. This will give you super energy on kills as long as you have Devour. Really straightforward, pretty easy to do, definitely works. Its other benefit for Nova Bomb does not apply here, but that's okay. It's another great option too. I just think Mantle Battle Harmony seems to be a little bit more applicable for this. Alright, I want to talk about the aspects and abilities. We're on Void, so we're of course going to take Feed the Void. Gives us Enhanced Devour, which is heals every time we kill something, and more grenade energy on all those kills. Our second aspect is going to be Chaos Accelerant, because that's going to empower grenades. The reason we're taking that is for Magnetic Grenade, which when you charge it with Chaos Accelerant becomes a handheld supernova. It's like a shotgun blast of grenade. It's one of the hardest hitting grenade effects you can get, which is really reliable to get your Devour started because it can kill most things. Also inflict volatile for other enemies, which is pretty great. And one thing I learned in making this video is when you have this, it actually increases the grenade regeneration speed of magnetic grenades by 15.5%. Its base cooldown goes from, I think it's 104 seconds down to 91, which is a nice little benefit. So that works out pretty well, just to have good uptime. With Devour, we're going to get that grenade back a lot. So it's just good to have a really strong one to make sure we keep that loop going. As I mentioned before, we're going to take Nova Warp. It's a really fun roaming super. It hits pretty hard. It's great for ad clear. Not as good for boss damage because it's a roaming super, but still pretty good super. For our melee, we have to take Pocket's Singularity because it's the only option we have. On your Rift, it's really flexible. Take Healing Rift or Empowering Rift, whatever feels good for you. I usually take Healing Rift though, if you're really not sure what to pick. Our fragments are pretty simple. We're going to take Echo of Undermining, gives us Weaken on our Void Grenade, which is another effect on that handheld supernova. And take Echo of Harvest, which will give us an orb when we kill weakened enemies, which just synergizes really well with Echo of Undermining. And then we're going to take Echo of Persistence. That makes our Devour last longer, so if there's ever some downtime in combat, we just have a little bit more forgiving timing for that, and then we can get it back even faster as we get kills. Then last, we're going to take Echo of Reprisal, which is one of the only fragments that gives straight super energy on kills, and it's whenever you're surrounded by 3+ enemies within 8 meters, you get more super energy, so perfect for this build. Some honorable mentions here. Echo of Instability is pretty fun. It'll give you volatile rounds whenever you get grenade kills, but it will tend to kind of steal your kills because we want to get weapon kills as much as possible to get our super back as fast, because ability kills take a pretty severe penalty on generating super. Lastly, if you are going full into volatile, you may consider Echo of Cessation. It will spawn void breaches as you're killing volatile enemies, which has some synergy with some artifact perks that can be neat, but I haven't really found to be necessary. Real quick on mods and armor stats, we are going to build for grenade energy, so you'll see a couple things in our build there. We're going to make orbs as much as possible, so we're going to do that with our grenade. We're going to do that with our siphon mod, with our void weapon, and we're also going to take power preservation so those roaming super kills can make even more orbs. On our legs, we're going to build for weapon damage. You could technically build for getting your grenade back even faster, but because it's a flat game penalty of this grenade, you're not really going to get too much out of it. So take a little bit because we'll make so many orbs, but don't really focus on it fully. On our stats, we're prioritizing resilience and discipline. Everything else, just get it to 30. And that's really all you need to worry about. I mentioned artifact perks before. You have just a few here that are void related. You have Power from Pain, which will give you Devour when you kill 3 weakened enemies within a few seconds of each other. We're going to Devour a lot though, so we don't necessarily need this. There's also Concussive Reload, which lets grenade launchers weaken, which is not too bad, but we'll have pretty decent sources of that too. And that's really only on bosses, champions, or broken shields, so not always happening. Curative Orbs is a great artifact perk no matter what. If you break a shield, you make an orb. Orbs mean super. Fantastic. In our last column, we have Supernova, which will let us create a weakening burst after picking up a Void Breach. This is kind of the main synergy with Echo of Cessation, just getting more Void Breaches and then picking them up and get weakening bursts. I don't know if I generally need that, and it's a little bit clunky just having to pick up those Void Breaches. Lastly, if you're building into Void Breaches, take Surf Cold. It just gives you some extra melee energy. One of the last few things that synergizes with Void in the artifact this episode. Now, Act 3 will be coming out in a few weeks, and I expect that to be pretty Void focused because the new exotic quest mission involves a void weapon and some void effects, so there may be some really good perks in Act 3, so just look out for that. If you do want to boost these perks, you want to be boosting Power from Pain, and you want this green tonic. So green rarity, green tonic. It has the icon that matches Power from Pain. Let's talk about weapons. So our focus is on generating our super. And if you've watched my super video, you would know that the most efficient way to generate your super is by using an exotic primary, preferably a strong one with a good bit of DPS or a good bit of AoE. So that's what we're going to do here. The very obvious option is Graviton Lance. It's fantastic. It makes huge explosions that wipe out enemies. Your next option would be Manticore, which can give you Void Overshield. It is an SMG, and you do have to be in the air a lot, which can be a little bit tricky, but really good survivability on that, so really solid option. If you want to go really into Void synergy, Collective Obligation is great. It can siphon up all those Void verbs and keep spinning them back out. A little bit of a loop, but it's more to kind of manage here and really just trying to make a straightforward build. Another fun one is Fighting Lion. It's explosions everywhere, and now this episode has been buffed to give Volatile on direct hits, but once again, those Volatile kills will not count as weapon kills, so they won't generate your super quite as fast, but you may not notice it. Lastly, Le Monarch is our last Void primary exotic. It's pretty strong. It's a really good safe option because you can kind of peek in and out of cover. Lastly, if you want to be a little bit less efficient, there's Buried Bloodline, which if you have it and the Catalyst will weaken as long as you have Devour up, which we always have up. So you'll have a consistent source of weaken, and it hits pretty hard because it's a special sidearm and kind of hits like one. Now, I just wanted to show you a little bit longer gameplay clip here. This is the beginning of Tomb of Elders, just playing solo. I find this encounter kind of interesting because you're just really surrounded by a ton of enemies. It's usually meant for 3 players, and there's no fire team scaling, so it can get a little bit hectic if you can't manage it. There's unfortunately the Take-In and Dread Spawn, which I hate of this because of the freaking Grimbats, but once again, trying to give you something challenging just to show you how it works. Devour is doing a lot of work here because it just constantly heals you as long as you can get a kill. So we're just trying to keep shooting things. And then every so often we just throw out the handhold Supernova to just make things volatile, do some damage. I've got a heavy machine gun here that's void just to kind of wipe out the stronger enemies. Graviton Lance is great, but it doesn't get as much of a damage bonus against bosses, so you're going to have to switch something. And you can see here, we've already got our super back. Pretty simple. So we are going to get annoyed with these Grims. Yeah, and then we're just going to pop that to wipe them out. Just kind of float around here. One thing to note, the little teleport dodge does use up your super energy, so try and do that kind of sparingly as you are playing with this. You want to mostly focus on those explosion blasts. Kind of think about where your enemies are just so you can maximize how many you can get in one cast of the super. We're starting to wane here. I think the boss enemy is about to pop out. Once again, it's really simple. If you're just getting weapon kills consistently, super's gonna tick back up. We're 75% back to that super. Hasn't been much time. As mentioned before, with the exotic, you can kind of sit on your super for a bit. If you want to have that 4x weapon surge, that's a 25% damage bonus compared to the 17% we get from 2 void weapon surges. Just kind of clearing out the enemies. The boss is now spawned in, so we're going to work on that next once we get rid of some of these annoying bats. And now we pop the Nova Warp. I probably should have sat on this just a little bit, just because the weapon surges will do a little bit better for bosses than the super. Super does pretty decent damage even still. This isn't a huge boss, but we've managed to mostly whittle it down just from that cast of the super, and we even were fighting off some enemies for the first bit of it. But low enough that we can just kind of wear them down, inflict volatile with pocket singularity, and then just whittle them down and beat them pretty easy. That's pretty much it. Just to summarize that gameplay loop again, when you're in add clear situations, you want to get one ability kill to get your Devour back. You just get those void weapon kills. That'll get your super back pretty quickly. Collect any orbs you see because that's more super. And then just, once your super's up, pop it as you needed for larger add clear, or majors, or champions, or whatever it is. When you get to a boss, you want to kind of build your super up before the boss, and then you want to hold that void surge as long as you have enemies to trigger it, because remember, you still have to get a kill once your super is fully charged. And then just unload as much void heavy as you can, and then if you need to, just use your super to finish off that boss, or clear out some space, or just use it for the damage resistance. That's one great benefit of roaming supers, is the damage resistance. So that's pretty much all I've got. Hope you enjoy the build. I've had a lot of fun with it. It popped off a lot better than I thought. I was actually going to do a different video before this and was struggling with it, and then this one came together very quickly. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Definitely check out my other videos. Once again, appreciate all the subscribers recently. I'll be putting out a few more build videos here before the holidays, and hope you enjoy them. Thanks. Have a good one.